Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is Pastor Mo of Liberating Truth Church, and you've tuned into a walk through the Bible on a walk through the Bible. We are endeavoring to teach from Genesis 1 and 1 to Revelation 22 and 21. Yes, the entire Bible. At ltcdetroit.org, that's ltcdetroit.org, that's our website. The links to our Facebook pages, the link to our YouTube channel, the link to our TikTok is on the website. And when you go to our YouTube channel, look for the playlist, A Walk Through the Bible. And there's about 50 videos there covering Genesis through Deuteronomy chapter 20. So we've covered the book of Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and the first 20 chapters of the book of Deuteronomy. And so today we are going to cover um, chapters 21 through 25. We do a summary of the chapter. We bring out some key themes and points we want to cover. This is not an exhaustive study, but I believe that it will give a believer a more clear understanding of God's whole counsel, His will. Um, the Bible is about the kingdom of God from beginning to end, God's eternal dominion over all of creation, and how He has been endeavoring to reconcile man to Himself because mankind was created to be in His image and be His people, where He is king, and the earth is the land, and we have His law. That's a kingdom, a king, His subjects. We are mankind, His subjects, His people. We live on the earth, and we have His law. So from Genesis 1 to 1 to Revelation 22 and 21, it is about the kingdom of God. Right now, we're in the kingdom of His dear Son. All power and authority has been given to Him to reign over His church and be the head of the church. So Jesus Christ is King, reigning from His throne in heaven at the right hand of the Father. One day He will give the kingdom back to the Father, where God will be all in all. That's in 1 Corinthians chapter 15. But now we have been translated from the kingdom of darkness into the kingdom of His dear Son, where Christ is King. The church is Christ's people. He is the head of the church. We're still in the earth, and we have the Lord's command. We have the law of Christ. All right? And so we are in the kingdom of Christ right now. Yes, He's going to have a physical reign, whether you believe it's 1,000 years, or if you believe He's reigning right now, and that's what the 1,000 years is talking about in Revelation. Whatever you believe, I just believe that at the end of all of this, we are going to be in the kingdom of God, enjoying eternal life in the new heaven and the new earth. Okay? And so we are in chapter 21 of Deuteronomy. Please share it. And we're going to look in the beginning of this chapter at killing a heifer, a female young cow that has not been under the yoke, has not been put to work, and has not had a calf, has not been pregnant, has not birthed any calves, any offspring. And the washing of hands, okay, this needed to be done for a city to be innocent of the blood of a man that is found dead near their city. So in chapter 21, verse 1, it says, if one be found slain, dead in the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee to possess it. So it's talking about in the land of Canaan, lying in the field, and it be not known who hath slain him. So there's no witnesses. You know, they didn't have cameras back then. There were no green light districts as we have here in Detroit where cameras are on businesses. But in the land of Canaan, if you find a man has been slain or killed, and you don't know who killed him, verse 2 says, then the elders and thy judges shall come forth, and they shall measure unto the cities which are round about him that is slain. And it shall be that the city which is next or closest to the slain man, even the elders of that city shall take a heifer. Remember the red heifer we talked about back in Numbers, mixed with ashes of the heifer and water. We have the water of separation. And we have the water of purifying that we looked at back in Numbers, which have not been wrought with, has not been worked, and which has not drawn, or which has not, which have not wrought, let's get it together, Mo, which have not been wrought with. Okay, that's a tongue twister right there for me. Wrought with. Has not been has not birthed any offspring, and which have not drawn in the yoke, has not been put to work. It has not been a working animal, and it has not birthed any offspring. And the elders of that city shall bring down the heifer unto the rough valley, which is neither eared nor sown. Okay, so you are to take a heifer, a young cow that has not birthed offspring, has not had a yoke on it, has not worked, not been a worker animal. Take it to a valley which you have not eared nor sown in this valley, or in the land of the valley, the dirt of the valley, and shall strike off the heifer's neck there in the valley. So this heifer has to be a sacrifice for the slain man. And the priests, the sons of Levi, shall come near. For them the Lord thy God has chosen to minister or serve him, and to bless in the name of the Lord. And by their word shall every controversy and every stroke or assault, that term stroke in King James Version means assault, be tried. And so the priests, the elders, the judges are the ones that judged in civil and criminal cases. And all the elders of that city that are next unto the slain man shall wash their hands over the heifer that is beheaded in the valley. And they shall answer and say, our hands have not shed this blood. So they're washing their hands of that blood. Neither have our eyes seen it. So neither did they do it, neither were they witnesses to it. Be merciful, O Lord, unto thy people Israel, whom thou hast redeemed, and lay not innocent blood unto thy people of Israel's charge, and the blood shall be forgiven them. So shalt thou put away the guilt of innocent blood from among you, when thou shalt do that which is right in the sight of the Lord. All right? Now, when a man takes a wife of the captives or of the spoil and is not satisfied with the woman, this is what the law requires them to do. When thou goest forth to war against thy enemies, and the Lord thy God hath delivered them into thy hands, and thou hast taken them captive, and seest, watch this, you physically see one of the captives, one of the women, that they're beautiful, and has a desire unto her. So at first the man has a physical attraction and is pleased with how she looks, but that thou wouldest have her to wife. Then thou shalt bring her home to thine house, and she shall shave her head, right, because she's a captive, and cut off her nails. All right? And she shall put the raiment of her captivity from her. So she got to take off the garments that she was wearing. If she was a Philistine, a Moabite, or whatever the case may be, from another nation, whatever they wore, their attire, they needed to take it off, and shall remain in thine house, and bewail her father and mother a full month. So before you touch her, let her grieve being away from her mother and father for a month. And after that, thou shalt go in unto her. So have sexual intercourse and be her husband. So this goes together. The sexual intercourse, living in her house, and she shall be thy wife. So all these things are required for her to be your legal wife. And it shall be if thou have no delight in her. Now, here's the thing. Does the man not have delight in her sexually? Or has some time went on and he finds out that, character-wise, he has no delight in her. Now, remember, she's a captive. She's not a Hebrew woman. Then thou shalt let her go wherever she wants to go. But thou shalt not sell her at all for money. Thou shalt not make merchandise of her because thou hast humbled her. Now, when we go back to Genesis 34:2, when Shechem took, what did I click on here? When Shechem took Dinah, remember, Jacob had a daughter named Dinah, not just 12 sons, but a daughter named Dinah. And Shechem took her and lay with her. Now, many say that she was raped by Shechem, but as I showed back in that chapter when we studied it, a man did not marry a woman that he raped, or a woman that was a prostitute that he paid to have sex, or that he raped her. He didn't make the woman his wife, not in ancient times. But Shechem did humble her. He defiled her. They weren't supposed to take a wife from the heathen. Okay? Notice that Abraham, Isaac, and I believe Jacob as well, they did not. As a matter of fact, Abraham said, do not let Isaac take a wife from this land. Send him back to my people. Okay? So Shechem humbled her, defiled her, in that he laid with a Hebrew woman and he wasn't supposed to. So when you lay with a virgin or lay with a woman and you defile her at that point, meaning she's not a virgin anymore, what man is going to buy her? A man is definitely not going to go and buy a woman who has lain with another man. As a matter of fact, I believe in the prior chapters that we studied, a woman would get in trouble if she, I believe we're going to read that in these future chapters, if she has had sex and her father and the man that comes in and pays her price for being a virgin finds out that he has sexual intercourse with her and finds out that she's not a virgin, she would be stoned, I believe, because she played the whore in Israel. So a man humbles or defiles a woman, humbles a woman if he has sex with her, because now she's not a virgin. He defiles her if he rapes her, or if he's a man from another nation that's not supposed to touch this woman that's from another nation. Okay, so when you take a woman, here it's saying from another nation that you have made captives or spoil. You went to war with them. You've taken spoil. You've taken goods. You've taken women and children. And you see a woman that is attracted to you. You take her, make her your wife, and you lay with her. And she doesn't please you. You just can't sell her because she's been humbled. She's had sex with you. You can't do that. No other man is going to take that woman. Okay, and you can't lie and say that she's a virgin and sell her, because once that man finds out, you're in trouble. All right. If a man, in verse 15, okay, so if you have any questions about that, you all can inbox me, email me. If a man has two wives, so as you see right here, God is not saying that having multiple wives is a sin. We know Lamech back in Genesis was the first to multiply wives or have more than one wife. Okay, it was not so before that. Cain had one wife. Adam had one wife. So Lamech was the first one to have multiple wives. But here you see he's making a law. If you have more than one wife, and one you love and the other you hate, or she's unloved, you don't favor her, don't like her, you don't have any delight in her, but you have born children to both of them, both the beloved and hated. But if the firstborn be the child of the one that you hate, that child is still your firstborn, and they receive your inheritance, not the firstborn of the one that you love. If the one that is hated has the oldest son, the firstborn child that you've ever had, that is the one that is the son that receives your inheritance. As a matter of fact, in verse 17, it says, "But he shall acknowledge the son of the hated for the firstborn by giving him a double portion of all that he hath." So he is the one that receives the inheritance, okay? Dealing with a rebellious son, verse 18, "If a man hath a stubborn and rebellious son, which will not obey the voice of the father or the voice of his mother, and that when they have chastened him will not hearken unto him." So he's not listening to verbal or physical chastisement. "Then shall his father and mother lay hold on him and bring him out unto the elders of the city and unto the gate of his place, and they shall say unto the elders of his city, This our son is stubborn and rebellious. He will not obey our voice. He is a glutton and a drunkard. And the men of his city shall stone him with stones that he die, so that the evil is put away from among you, and all Israel shall hear and fear." So make an example of his behind. "And if a man have committed a sin worthy of death," there were sins that required different punishments. There was some that was worthy of death. Okay, some you could atone for, some you could not. A man was killed, stoned to death for gathering sticks on the Sabbath. God didn't play that. He said, "Put him to death." And he be put to death, and thou hang him on the tree. So if a man is worthy of death and you hang him on the tree, verse 23 says, "His body shall not remain all night upon the tree, but thou shalt in any wise bury him that day, for he that is hanged is accursed of God." And remember that the New Testament talks about the curse that Christ faced, because it says, "Cursed is he that hangs on a tree or is hung on wood." Okay? Chapter 22, honesty. Okay? Notice God is establishing laws that just about cover everything, especially justice. You know, how to live holy unto him, and justice. Justice to the poor, justice in domestic cases, criminal cases, being honest. He wants them to be holy. He wants them to be different than other nations, because other nations, they don't, they're full of injustice. They definitely don't care for the poor like they should. They're not honest. Chapter 22, verse 1 says, "Thou shalt not see thy brother's ox or his sheep go astray." Now you have seen your neighbor's dog get out the fence, and you go back in your bedroom like, "Oh, well, it ain't my dog." It says, "And hide thyself from them, thou shalt in any case bring them again unto thy brother. Help your brother out. Be honest. I saw your ox or your sheep go astray. Here, I'm bringing them back to you. And if thy brother be not nigh unto thee, or near you, or if thou know him not, then thou shalt bring it unto thine own house, and it shall be with thee until thy brother seek after it. So if you're not near your brother's house, or if you don't know him, or know the neighbor of this lost animal, bring it to your house. Don't sell it. Don't kill it. Keep it, because somebody's going to be looking for it. You know, in Roseville, we have a Facebook page, and people post all the time things that they find: wallets, dogs, cats. Be honest, and thou shalt restore it to him again. So it's talking about honesty. In like manner shalt thou do with his donkey, and so shalt thou do with his raiment, if you find his clothing, and with all lost thing of thy brothers. If he lose anything, keep it, take it back to him. If you don't know where to take it, keep it, because when they come for it, give it back to him. Which he has lost, and thou hast found, shalt thou do likewise. Thou mayest not hide thyself. All right? Wearing opposite sex clothing. The woman shall not wear that which pertaineth unto a man, neither shall a man put on a woman's garments. For all that do so are abomination, or disgusting, or detestable unto the Lord thy God. Did y'all hear that? It's disgusting for a woman to wear men's clothes, and disgusting for a woman to wear. It's disgusting for a man to wear women's clothes, and for a woman to wear men's clothes. That's what God said. If a bird's nest be near you, or in the way of one of your trees, or on the ground, whether they be young ones or eggs, and the dam or the female bird be sitting upon the young or upon the eggs, thou shalt not take the dam with the young. So leave the mother bird, verse 7 says, and take the young to thee. Don't take the mother bird. Let her go and produce other offspring, that it may be well with thee, and that thou mayest prolong thy days. So God was just serious about fairness, about justice, about compassion, love, loyalty. I mean, to the point that, these are his creatures. That's what we have to understand. You just can't, value your wife and your children, and then just, not value the life of other creatures, a dog, a cat, a bird, and just destroy them because they're not human. God's like, no, they're my creatures too. Verse 8, when thou buildest a new house, then thou shalt make a battlement, or a wall for the roof. So the roof shouldn't just have an edge where you can walk off it. It should have a wall around it, that thou bring not blood upon thy house, if any man fall from thence. So you have to have some type of wall or railing around your roof so no one falls off of it. And we know today, the houses today, you can fall right off of them. Because if you try to grab the gutter on your way down, that ain't going to work. Mixing is forbidden, okay? Now today, we look at those things like, you can't mix seeds, you can't mix wool with linen. Like, what's so bad about that? There wasn't anything bad or nasty or disgusting about it. It's just what God required. As a matter of fact, can you follow these simple directions? They shouldn't be a big deal. It's like, man, God tripping. But then it was hard for people to keep it. Remember, when he sent the manna, gather it 6 days. Gather enough on the 6th day for the next day. Don't gather on the 7th day. Very simple instructions. Did they follow it? Nope. They went out on the seventh day. So really, when you look at it, it might be trivial to us, but why can't we keep these simple instructions? Right? Leave another man's wife alone. How hard is that? Must be hard because we do it every day, don't we? Thou shalt not sow thy vineyard with divers or different seeds, lest the fruit of thy seed which thou hast sown and the fruit of thy vineyard be defiled. It's just what he required. Thou shalt not plow with an ox or an ass together. It's either two oxes or two donkeys. Thou shalt not wear different sorts as of woolen and linen together. You got to wear either wool or linen. Simple. Thou shalt not make thee fringes, thou shalt make thee fringes upon the four quarters of thy vesture, wherewith thou coverest thyself. So your outer garment should have fringes on them. Why? We learned back in, was it Deuteronomy? That the fringes reminded them to keep the law. Why do many people wear fringes today? Not hinges, fringes today. The new covenant in Jeremiah said that I'm going to put my law in your mind, right? So that you would do his law from the mind and not have to, it should be done naturally, spiritually. It should be a way of life. You shouldn't have to look at, have some, it's like putting notes on the refrigerator for a child, to do things that when they become adults, they should do it, automatically, because it's a part of their life. Keeping the law has to be a part of our life. We shouldn't have to have sticky notes on the refrigerator to, live holy. So when those who wear fringes today, they need to know that the law should be in their heart, their minds. If any man take a wife and go in unto her and hate her. This kind of answers the question of whether those prior verses was talking about, is it her character? Is it they just don't live well together? This says if a man take a wife and go into her, have sexual intercourse, and she don't please him, and give occasions of speech against her and bring up an evil name upon her and say, I took this woman, and when I came to her, I found her not a maid or not a virgin. So he just didn't enjoy her, but he's lying on her and saying, I don't want her because she's not a virgin. Well, then shall the father of the damsel and her mother take and bring forth the tokens of evidence of the damsel's virginity unto the elders of the city in the gate. So they have, the mother and the father have to prove, no, when he came to get our daughter, she was a virgin, and we have proof. And the damsel's father shall say unto the elders, I gave my daughter unto this man to wife, and he hated her. She was a virgin when we gave her to him. And lo, he hath given occasion of speech against her, saying, I found not thy daughter a maid or a virgin. Now you lying, bruh. And yet these are the tokens, the proof, the evidence of my daughter's virginity, whatever that was back then. And they shall spread the cloth before the elders of the city. Now, here we say there's a cloth. Now, to my knowledge, there was to be a cloth laid when the man went in unto her, and the blood was the evidence of her virginity. Many of you go and study it for yourselves, see what you come up with, but this is what I came up with in my studies. And the elders of the city shall take that man and chastise him, and they shall immerse or fine him in 100 shekels of silver, and give them unto the father of the damsel, because he has wrought an evil name upon a virgin of Israel, and she shall be his wife. He may not put her away all the days away all of his days. But if this thing is true, and the tokens or proof of virginity be not found for the damsel, you don't have that cloth that has her blood on it from her virginity. Then they shall bring out the damsel to the door of her father's house, and the men of the city shall stone her with stones, that she die, because she hath wrought folly in Israel, to play the whore in her father's house. So shall thou put evil away from among you. So she done had sex. Her father didn't know it. She had it while she was living with him. Let her father take a dowry, the price for a virgin, knowing she wasn't a virgin. Okay, she gets stoned with stones. Very serious offense. Aren't you glad you're in the age of grace? If a man be found lying with a woman married to her husband, then they shall both of them die. Both the man that lay with the woman and the woman. So shall thou put away evil from Israel. If a damsel that is a virgin be betrothed or engaged unto a husband, and a man find her in the city and lie with her, in the city, right? Then you shall bring them both out unto the gate of that city, and ye shall stone them with stones, that they die. The damsel, because she cried not, being in the city. So if she in the city, she could cry out, somebody would hear her. Maybe that man would run away, not take her. Or someone would hear her, come rescue her. One of the two. But if no one heard of this, that means she didn't cry out. She was going along with what was going on. And the man, because he hath humbled her or defiled her. Remember, he didn't rape her, because if he raped her, she would have been screaming, right? This goes back to Dinah again. Was Dinah raped? Did she show signs of rape? Did she cry out to Jacob and her brothers like, this man raped me? No, the Bible says she didn't say nothing. But her brother said, why should we let them treat her like a prostitute? In other words, he done lay with her. Now he want to come and pay us for her. They never said nothing about rape. So he humbled her. He's taken her virginity. Or, I'm sorry, in this case, it's not the virginity. He's humbled her in that he's laid with a man's wife. So he's humbled her and defiled her in that regard. If a man lays with a virgin and doesn't make her his wife, he's defiled her. She's no good to another man in those times. It's not like today when we marry people who have been married, have had sex multiple times. We don't live in that culture. That's why when we talk about divorce, and we're going to talk about that on my new show in June. This is 2024 for those who may be watching this video. We have to really think about marriage and divorce, because we don't marry and we don't live as they did back then. So he has humbled this. As a matter of fact, let me back up and give the right details. She is betrothed to a husband, which means he haven't even had sex with her. So he has taken her virginity. Sorry about that. Remember, it says that she's a virgin betrothed to a husband. She's a virgin that's engaged to a man. He lies with her in the city. And she cried not, like, yeah, I'm engaged, but let's get it. He's defiled her. He's defiled her. He's humbled her, because now she's not a virgin anymore. This man's fiance has now been defiled. You can't marry her now, bruh. So they both are to die. But if a man find a betrothed damsel in the field, now this is out where if she screams, she can't be heard, and the man forces her and lie with her. Now this is talking about rape. So you're not going to rape a woman in the city. because when she cries out, you're behind in trouble, right? But when he forces her in the field, where can't nobody hear her, then the man shall die. Because the woman, she couldn't find no help. But unto the damsel, thou shalt not do nothing. There's in the damsel no sin worthy of death, because she couldn't scream for nobody. All right? For as when a man rises against his neighbor and slayeth him, even so is this matter. So when you rape a woman, when you kill a man, your life is to be given. For he found her in the field, and the betrothed damsel cried, and there was none to save her. Can't nobody hear her in the field. If a man find a damsel that is a virgin, which is not betrothed, so she's not engaged, and lay hold on her and lie with her, and they be found, then the man that lay with her shall give unto the damsel's father 50 shekels of silver, and she shall be his wife, because he did what? He humbled her or defiled her. Now she's not a virgin anymore. He may not put her away all his days. You can't just take her virginity and put her away. Who else is going to marry her? Ain't nobody going to pay her father any money for a woman that's not a virgin. A man during that time wanted a virgin, a young virgin, okay? And you went to the father for the virgin wife. And it's not like today where you go to the parents. Yeah, we're getting married, and this is the date, and whether you like it or not, we get married. Some may give some. You have some women that may take the advice of the father sometimes. I think in some rare cases, a woman might not marry a man because I don't want to upset my father. But most women, I'm marrying him. I want you to give me away. If not, I love him and I'm marrying him. So we're not in the same culture, right? And nowadays, shoot, you got on social media where you got women down on their knees proposing to men. So that's the latest thing that we've been seeing in 2024. All right? A man shall not take his father's wife, nor discover his father's skirt. All right? So this is talking about laying with your father's wife and uncovering your nakedness. It's also called uncovering your father's nakedness when you sleep with his wife. Okay, so we have to watch that language there. All right, people who can't enter the congregation. Chapter 23. He who is wounded in the stones or testicles, or his private parts are cut off, shall not enter into the congregation of the Lord. I know this is insensitive, but that was the law. That's why the law was heavy, man. Thank God for grace. A bastard. Now, a bastard, by definition today, is a child that is had by parents who are not married. Now, I know some parents who are not married would be like, my child ain't no bastard. But according to the definition, today, that's what a bastard child is, a child that's born out of wedlock. But during the time of ancient times, a bastard was considered probably the same, maybe, but more so a child that was birthed through incest and adultery. Okay, they shall not enter into the congregation of the Lord. Even to his 10th generation shall he not enter into the congregation of the Lord. An Ammonite or a Moabite shall not enter into the congregation of the Lord. But this says forever. All right, because they did not meet you with bread and with water when you were traveling, when you left out of Egypt. And because the Moabites hired Balaam against you to speak a curse against you. Balaam, excuse me. Balaam, the son of Beor of Pethor of Mesopotamia, to curse thee. They hired Balaam to curse Israel, but God said, you can't curse what I bless. All right? Verse 7 says, thou should not abhor or hate an Edomite. Edomite, the descendants of Esau, that's your brother. Okay, Jacob and Esau was born to Isaac and Rebekah. You shall not hate him, for he is thy brother. Neither shall you hate an Egyptian, because you were a stranger in the land of Egypt. Before this Pharaoh came along that oppressed you, remember, you had to run there because of the famine. Your lives were saved. Your forefathers' lives were saved. Jacob and those 70 people that went into Egypt were saved from the famine because Joseph was there. So don't hate them. The children that are begotten of them shall enter into the congregation of the Lord in the third generation. So there's a time when even they can enter into the congregation if you have children with them. When the host goeth, or your army goeth forth against thine enemies, then keep thee from every wicked thing. Okay? So when you go to war, don't touch their gods, don't touch things that you are not supposed to touch and take back as spoil, as Achan did. We'll find out about that. Don't touch the accursed things of your enemy. If there be any among you, any man that is not clean by reason of uncleanness, by night, okay, then shall he go abroad outside of the camp. He shall not come within the camp. So if he's unclean, he's got to go outside of the camp. But it shall be when evening cometh on, or that evening, he shall wash himself with water, and when the sun is going down, he can come back into the camp. So that was ritually how you would become clean and be able to come back into the camp. For whatever reason, if you touched the dead or something happened that made you unclean, you had to stay outside of the camp until evening and wash yourself. And thou shalt have a paddle or some type of shovel upon thy weapon, and it shall be when you need to ease yourself or defecate that you can dig a hole with it and cover it up. You can dig a hole, put your dung in it, cover it up. All right? He says, for the Lord thy God walketh in the midst of thy camp to deliver thee and to give of thy enemies before thee. Therefore shall thy camp be holy, that he see no unclean thing in thee and turn away from thee. All right? So you got to be clean. You got to be holy before the Lord. Thou shalt not deliver unto his master the servant which is escaped from his master unto thee. He shall dwell with thee. So if a slave escapes from his master, he shall stay with you, even among you, in the place which he shall choose in one of thy gates, where it liketh him best. Thou shalt not oppress him. So if he escapes from a bad master, you should keep him. All right? There shall be no whore of the daughters of Israel, nor a sodomite of the sons of Israel. So no male or female prostitute shall be in your dwellings or among you. Thou shalt not bring the hire of a whore or the price of a dog or heathen into the house of the Lord thy God for any vow. For even both these are an abomination unto the Lord thy God. Wow. So is this saying today that You know, if the money is dirty, you can't bring it into the house of the Lord. Wow. Thou shalt not lend upon usury or interest to thy brother. Okay? You cannot charge your brother interest when you lend something to him. But in verse 20 it says, unto a stranger thou mayest lend with interest. Okay? Verse 21, when thou shalt vow a vow unto the Lord thy God, thou shalt not slack to pay it, for the Lord thy God will surely require it of thee, and it will be sin in thee. So when you make a vow unto the Lord, he expects you to pay your vow, honor your vow, or it will become a sin. But if thou shalt forbear to vow, it shall be no sin unto thee. So don't make a vow if you're not going to keep it. That which is gone out of thy lips, your word, when you give someone your word, you should keep it and perform it. Even a free will offering, even if it's not a law. If it's free will and you vowed it, if it came out of your mouth that you vowed it and you promised it with your mouth, then you are required to give it. When you come into your neighbor's vineyard, then thou mayest eat of the grapes thy fill in thine own pleasure, but thou shalt not put it in any vessels. So when you go into your neighbor's vineyard and he allows you to eat from it, you can't take no carry out. Okay? Eat and be filled and leave your neighbor's vineyard alone. When thou comest into the standing corn of thy neighbor, then thou may pick or pluck the ears with thy hand, but thou shalt not move the sickle or cut down his stalks of corn. You can eat there, but you can't take nothing with you. All right? Do you see these laws? These laws are making sure that they are fair and honest, because the inhabitants of the land are not fair and honest. They are full of injustice and cruelty. He wants the children of Israel to be holy, different, separate, separated, uncommon. If a man marries a woman who becomes displeasing to him because he finds something indecent about her. This is chapter 24, verse 1. Still talking about this marriage, huh? Something serious, right? This is about keeping your vows, your promises, your word. God is big on that, as you can see. And he writes her a certificate of divorce. Remember, they questioned Jesus about Moses in his days, and well, they questioned him about divorce, and he said, well, Moses' time, he allowed you to write a certificate of divorce because of the hardness of your heart. But Jesus said, I say you can't divorce except for sexual immorality. But if this woman is displeasing to him and he finds something indecent in her, he may write her a certificate of divorce. And it says in verse 2, if she leaves and becomes another man's wife and her second husband dislikes her and writes her a certificate of divorce and sends her away, or if he dies, then the first husband who divorced her is not allowed to marry her again because she is defiled. She's been with another man. Okay, that would be detestable or an abomination in the eyes of the Lord. It says, do not bring this sin upon you. If a man has recently married, he must not be sent out to war or have any duty laid upon him. These laws were here in America. I don't know if it still is. If a mother only has one son, he can't go to war, and If a man was newly married, I believe, and had a child on the way, he couldn't go to war. It was different laws um, for men, even during our age. Okay? Do not take a pair of millstones, not even the upper one, as security for a debt, because that would be taking a person's livelihood as security. So when you have a person make a vow with you, or um, wants to give you something in return for debt, whatever the case may be, you cannot take what is a man's living as a vow. Okay? His paycheck, you cannot take his business, his tools for his business, a building, anything that's his livelihood, you could not take. Okay? You could not take a man's livelihood or what he has or what he uses for his living as a vow. No matter how much he wants to give it, you can't take it. If someone is caught kidnapping a fellow Israelite and treating or selling him as a slave, the kidnapper must die. In cases of defiling skin diseases such as leprosy, you must go to the priest and be instructed by them. You must follow carefully what I have commanded them. Remember back in Leviticus chapters 13 and 14, we dealt with the law of the leper, or those who have skin diseases. Remember what the Lord God did to Miriam along the way after you came out of Egypt. In other words, leprosy is something I put on you if you sin. My best friend who passed away a couple of years ago, he used to say, don't mess around and have something put on you that water can't wash off. All right? When you make a loan of any kind to your neighbor, what is your neighbor? The neighbor in this context is talking about a fellow Israelite, not somebody who lives next door to you. Do not go into their house to get what is offered to you as a pledge or as collateral. Stay outside and let your neighbor go in and bring out the pledge to you. You don't go in there picking it. All right? Verse 12, the neighbor is poor, do not go to sleep with their pledge in your possession. Like, say, for instance, they pledged their coat. Remember in prior chapters that we studied, you got to give them back what covers them, covers their body and their skin. You can't take their outer coat and not give it back to them. Return their cloak by sunset so that your neighbor may sleep in it. That's what they didn't have covers like we did, like we do today. Do not take, verse 14, do not take advantage of a hired worker who is poor and needy. All right? Whether that worker is a fellow Israelite or a foreigner residing in your town, pay them their wages before sunset because they are poor and are counting on it. Do you see what God is doing? He's making sure that when they get into Canaan, that they execute fair justice in civil and criminal cases. They are going to be a nation of justice because God is just. Parents are not to be put to death for their children, nor children put to death for their parents. Each shall die for their own sin. Do not deprive the foreigner or the fatherless of justice. Remember that you were slaves in Egypt, and the Lord redeemed you from there. That is why I command you to do this. The Egyptians were unjust. They did not treat you fairly. You will not do the same. Okay? And so the rest of this chapter is a a few verses, and it's going on to talk about honesty. Honesty, honesty, honesty. Chapter 25. When people have a dispute, they are to take it to court, and the judges will decide the case. God put the priests, the elders, and judges in place so they can have a government that will govern them, a justice system. Use it, Israel, is what God is saying, acquitting the innocent and condemning the guilty. If the guilty person deserves to be beaten, the judge shall make them lie down and have them flogged or beaten in his presence with the number of lashes the crime deserves. So the judge will let you know how many lashes, but the judge must not impose more than 40 lashes. And we know Paul talked about that. 39 stripes plus one. Okay? He's going to talk about that in the New Testament. Do not muzzle an ox while it is treading out the corn. Paul alludes to this in the New Testament when referring to those who preach the gospel. The workers should be compensated for the work that they are doing. Okay? Let them benefit from the work that they do. Some people don't like this. Okay? They don't obey it because many have taken advantage of this blessing from God, and I agree, some are not worthy. Some have taken advantage of it. But God says if you love the work of the minister and it blesses you, then you should take care of him. If you don't believe a pastor or teacher is worthy of being compensated for what they do and for what you receive from them, then you shouldn't be receiving from them. You should go elsewhere. You need to leave and find one that is, because you are required to compensate those who teach you. You need to make sure that you're obeying the word like you want pastors to. Don't be a hypocrite. You're a hypocrite if you judge what the pastor is doing and not doing, and you're not doing what the word is requiring you to do. Okay? Watch what Galatians 6:6 says. This is the NIV version. Nevertheless, the one who receives instruction, that's you, in the word should share all good things with their instructors. Some translations say material things. And Paul talks about that. What great thing is it for me to receive your material things if I've sown unto you spiritual things? It's in the word. It is the truth. Okay? So no matter how you've been done and what you're not comfortable with or how you've been burned, you need to find someone who won't burn you. But you can't just totally disregard what God requires of you as the disciple, the student. If brothers are living together and one of them dies without a son, his widow must not marry outside the family. Her husband's brother shall take her and marry her and fulfill the duty of a brother-in-law to her. And we're going to learn about the kinsman redeemer also in the book of Ruth, which is different from this. But the first son she bears shall carry on the name of the dead brother so that his name will not be blotted out from Israel. However, if a man does not want to marry his brother's wife, she shall go to the elders at the town gate and say, my husband's brother refused to carry on his brother's name in Israel. He will not fulfill the duty of a brother-in-law to me. Then the elders of his town shall summon him and talk with him. And if he persists in saying, I will not marry her, his brother's widow shall go up to him in the presence of the elders, take off one of his sandals and spit in his face and say, this is what is done to the man who will not build up his brother's family line. So you were a disgrace and was worthy to be spit in your face if you didn't carry on your brother's lineage. Wow. This man's line shall be known in Israel as the family of the unsaddled, or the family of one who has had to remove his sandal. Okay, that family will be marked as having a man that is a disgrace to his family. If two men are fighting and the wife of the one of them comes to rescue her husband from the assailant and she reaches out and seizes him by his private parts, you should cut off her hand and have no pity on her. So God didn't play with that. You don't touch a man's reproductive organs. By no means. Do not have two differing weights in your bag, one heavy and one light. Do not have two differing measures in your house, one large and one small. You must have accurate and honest weights and measures so that you may live long in the land of the Lord your God, in the land the Lord your God is giving you. For the Lord your God detests anyone who does these things, anyone who deals dishonestly. God did not approve of dishonesty. Be honest in trade is what he's talking about. Your bag should have in it what you say it has in it. If you're supposed to have 10 bands in it, $10,000, you shouldn't have, 5,000 and 100s and have some 20s hidden in there. Talking about, there's 10 stacks of, or you shouldn't have, $100 bills and 20s and telling the person, well, it's 10 stacks of hundreds in here, but you got some ones and fives in there. No, you have to have the balance of weight, money in your bag that you say is in there. Don't be a shyster. Be honest. Remember what the Amalekites did to you along the way when you came out of Egypt. When you were weary and worn out, they met you on your journey and attacked all who were lagging behind. They saw that you were weak and attacked you. When the Lord your God gives you rest from all your enemies around you in the land he has given you to possess as an inheritance, you shall blot out the name of Amalek from under heaven. Do not forget. Woo! So even though we're not to seek revenge today, back then God said those nations that came against you or did you wrong, as a matter of fact, I'm going to have revenge on them because they're my enemies. I believe because we live in the age of grace, we do not readily take the burden upon us to be honest and to be fair. What kind of world would this be if we were fair and honest, just, civilly, criminally? If we would treat our neighbor right, be honest with our neighbor, treat our spouses right, be fair, not be hypocrites. What a world this would be. Chapters 26 through 30 tomorrow. We're coming to a close in the book of Deuteronomy. Remember, this is not an exhaustive study, but we are going over every chapter of the Bible so you can be familiar with it, and then you can go and do a more in-depth study. Even in this study from a summary perspective, you can see the theme of the Bible very clear from Genesis to where we are now, what God is desiring to do, to be the king of a people who will live righteously unto him, live in a blessed land, keep his law, have dominion in the earth as he intended when he created Adam and Eve. The king, his people, the land, and his law. The kingdom of God. That's what the Bible is about. I'll see you tomorrow at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time.